Good morning students. Today we are going to discuss about Hypertext Transport Protocol. It is the most popular application protocol used in the internet or the web. It is also known as request response communication model, which means client sends a request, server receives a request, processes the request and sends the response back to the client. In other words, whenever you issue an URL from your browser to get a web resource using HTTP, the browser turns the URL into a request message and sends it to the HTTP server. The HTTP server interprets the request message and returns you an appropriate response message, which is either the resource you requested or an error message. Suppose the resource what you are requested is not present, means it will display an error message to the client. HTTP is also known as the stateless protocol, which means the current request does not know what has been done in the previous request. Normally, HTTP is implemented over a TCP connection. 80 is the standard port for HTTP. This is a typical browser server interaction. So whenever if the user want to access a particular resources, he needs to enter a web address in a browser. So browser, what it does means it uses DNS server to locate IP address. A browser again open TCP connection to the server. Browser sends the HTTP request over connection. Server in turn receives the request and prepare response and send back to the client. Browser displays body of response in the client area of the browser window. Mostly the information transmitted using HTTP is often entirely a text. We can simulate the browser request and server response using Telnet protocol. See here $telnet, and this is the host name www.example.org and the port number 80. The DNS will convert the host name into IP address and it is sent back to the server. The server in turn receives the request and process the request and provide response back to the client. See here, this is the send request and this is the receive response. In send request, we are using get method, and here HTTP Hypertext Transport Protocol, and this is the version number 1.1, and the host is www.example.org, the resource requested from the client. In the response side, again HTTP, and then 1.1 is the version. 200 denotes the resource requested from the server is currently available, which means the status code will be allocated as 200. If the resource requested is not present in the server, means you have some other status code, that is 404 code will be displayed in the response header. So 200 means the requested resource should be available in the server, and the phrase OK is the requested resource is available, right? So date, when the response should be prepared, at what time and date the response should be prepared will be given in the date field. Next we move on to HTTP request. This is the structure of the request. It contains start line, header fields, blank line as well as optional body. Let us discuss one by one. First we move to start line. See, the start line is separated by 3 space. One is HTTP request method, another one is request URI, another one is HTTP version. So version is nothing but it tells the server what version of HTTP is the client using. Next we move on to request URI. So URI is nothing but uniform resource identifier. The syntax for URI is scheme and scheme dependent part. The scheme here is HTTP and scheme dependent part is www.example.com. See, URI is an identifier intended to associate particular resources. So in the example.com you are going to access a particular resources, right? Request URI is a portion of the requested URI that follows the host name. So this is a say for example, suppose you want to access a particular resources www.example.com/1.html particular file. The portion which we call it as a request URI. The slash is a request URI portion of HTTP www.example.com. So URI is of two types: uniform resource name, which is nothing but used to identify resources with a unique name such as books. So see here, it consists of 3 colon separated parts. First one is URN, and the second one is namespace identifier, that is ISBN, and the third one is namespace specific string. So if a given like this means you can able to access particular resources, there is a particular book you can able to access easily. Another one is uniform resource locator. So it specify the location at which a resource can be found. So it should be a link, so where the resource you can find out where the resource should be available. In addition to HTTP, some other URL schemes are HTTPS, that is for security purpose they are using HTTPS, FTP, mail to, and file. These are some of the common request method. One is get. In get method, whatever information is identified by the request URI is present in the get method. Can get static content and data produced by a program. Next one is post method. Post method mostly used in submitting a registration form. If you want to collect information from user, normally we use forms to collect the data, right? So whenever you are submitting a registration form or submitting any confidential detail, we can use post method. And last method is head. In head, server response does not include message body. It is useful for debugging, checking for validity, accessibility, and modification. Next we move on to header fields. See, in header field structure, field name and then field value. Field name is nothing but a host name, and field value is particular value what you want to access. See, field name is not case sensitive. Field value may continue on multiple lines by starting continuation lines with white space. So field name is not case sensitive, and field value may contain multiple lines, may continue on multiple lines separated by space, white space. Field value may contain MIME types, quality values. MIME type is nothing but multi-purpose internet mail extension protocol. And quality values is nothing but in MIME type there should be a content type. In the content type, what type of document the response should be received is mentioned. Say for example, if it is a text bar HTML, it is a HTML document. For that they have some quality values. Quality values is nothing but it's on the preference. Say for example, if it is an image file, it will take longer time to load, right? If it is a text file, means it will be loaded very fast. So that value should be mentioned in the quality value, and then wildcard characters. HTTP request sent by browser consists of start line. So if you want to send a request for a particular resource, it consists of a start line, header fields, and short message body. See here, here the www.example.org is a field name, and the value here is 56789. Next we move on to MIME. I already told MIME is a multipurpose internet mail extension protocol. It is mainly used for identifying what type of file it is. We can also say specifying a content type of a message. See, if you want to access a particular resource from a server in turn receives a request and process the request and provide response to HTTP response header. In HTTP response header, it contains a content type. The content type is nothing but what type of document it is. Say for example, the requested resource may be available in text bar HTML means it should be opened in corresponding plugin, right? It should be opened in a browser. Text bar HTML means that should be maintained in a content type. See here, MIME content type syntax text bar HTML. If it is a web page, it is a text bar HTML. If it is an image, means image bar JPEG. That is type bar subtype. See here, I already told what do you mean by the term quality values. If it is a text bar HTML means the quality value is higher, 0.9. If it is a plain text, it is a 0.8. But if it is a image file or GIF file, it is a 0.2. If nothing is specified, it should be taken as 0.1. The quality values apply to all the preceding items. Higher the value, higher the preference. So here for HTML it will give a higher preference, and for plain text the next preference, that is 0.8. So use of wildcards to specify quality value 0.1 for any MIME type not specified. I already told if any of the quality value are not specified, it will automatically take 0.1. Next we move on to common header fields. So host is nothing but a host name from URL. So if you want to request any resources, you just type the host name. So that is host name. And user agent is nothing but what type of browser you are using to search a request or sending a request. Accept is nothing but what type of acceptable documents the response should give. Connection value close tells server to close the connection after a single request. Content type is nothing but identifying what type of document it is. Content length is bytes in body, how many bytes it will be. And referrer is nothing but URL of a document containing link that supplied URI for this HTTP request. Next we move on to HTTP response. The response consists of status line, header fields, blank line, and then optional body. See here, status lines is separated by again 3 parts. So one is reason phrase, another one is status code, another one is HTTP version. Reason phrase is used for intended for human use. So OK, which means the requested resources available, and status code 200 means the requested resources available, which means it will be available. And version here is the client, they are using the version 1.1, HTTP 1.1. Let us discuss in detail. Status code, so it's a 3-digit number. The first digit is a class of the status code. So 1 means informational, 2 means success, 3 means redirection, 4 means client error, and 5 means server error. Other 2 digits provide additional information. Let us discuss here. See the status code here. So 200 means the request resources processed successfully. The request resources available, which means OK. The phrase should be OK. See, the phrase is intended for human purpose, for our understanding. The status code is for machine understanding. So 301 means move permanently. Just now the resources move permanently. The URI for request resource changed. 307 means temporary redirect. Sometimes if you want to access particular resources, the particular resource is not available means it will automatically redirect to some other server. So that we call it as temporary redirect. And 401 is unauthorized. So some content is protected, right? We cannot able to access all the contents. So that we call it as unauthorized. And 403 is forbidden resource. Present on a server but is read protected. You cannot able to read the content. 404 is not found error. The requested resource is not found. And 500 means some server error, internal server error. Next move on to header fields. So these are the common header fields: connection, content type. Content type I already told. It is used to specify what type of document it is. Content length is length in bytes. Date is nothing but a date and time at which response was generated. Location is nothing but alternate URI. If you was going to request a particular resources, the particular resource is not available means it should mention alternate URI. So which URI it can be opened, that will be given. Last modified, date and time the requested resources was last modified on the server. Expires, date and time after which the client copy of the resource will be out of date. Say for example, if you are accessing a particular document, the particular document is sent back to the client now. Again the client requests the same document means you need not to go for once again to HTTP server. For a few seconds the document will be valid. That we call it as a client copy of resources. You have to specify how long it will valid. The document will be valid. And E tag is nothing but a unique identifier for the version of requested resources. Next we move on to client caching. Cache is nothing but a local copy of information obtained from some other sources. Say for example, if you are accessing a particular document in internet, if you are requesting a particular document, the server in turn receives a request and processes a request and send back the response to the client. Once again the clients request the same document. At that time you need not to go for HTTP server again. For that purpose only cache is used. See here, HTTP request for image. The request will be sent to the server. Server in turn receives a request and processes a request and send response containing an image. The image should be stored in the cache memory. So again I need that image again. I already told HTTP is a stateless protocol, which means the current request does not know what has been done in the previous request. For that purpose we use a cache, is a local copy. So I need that image again means I need not to give request to HTTP server. Instead I can get the information from the cache itself. See here, get image from the local copy itself. Cache advantages is much faster than HTTP request or response because no need to wait for getting the resource from server. Less network traffic, less load on server. The disadvantages is whether the requested resource is valid. The cached copy of resource may be valid. Sometimes it may be invalid. So how it can be identified means with the help of E tag. The send HTTP head request and check last modified or E tag header. Compare. So how it can be identified means the cached copy is invalid means you can compare the current date with the expire header send in response containing resources. Based on the comparison you can identify. If no expires header was sent means you can use some heuristic algorithm to estimate the value for expires. So this is a easy way. If you want to request the thing again means you no need to send for HTTP server and access the resources. Instead you can send a local copy from the cache itself and you can send the response to the client. So that's all about HTTP protocol. Thank you students.